Hello, everyone. For the reading test, I decided to do something academic. So I read the part three introduction from the book here, Mikuleki, which is part of our assigned reading today. That section was part of our assigned reading. See, the first reading, my reading rate was about 390, and when I read again, it was 468. So it went up perhaps about 70 words per minute. I found myself during the second time that I was reading it, I was more chunking the text. So I was going through and identifying words and phrases that I didn't understand. Um, I didn't take the time to underline them or highlight them because I knew I would go over it one more time. As far as how I felt, I'm always nervous when I have to take any kind of test, no matter how small or huge the test is. I'm always sweating. I lose focus, and I just have a fear of testing, and it's always been that way. So I do, even when I just give tests to English language learners, I try to make it as comfortable as possible, and I always try to make the test not as hectic as some tests can be, but I try to really relate the information that I want them to know in the test. Um, I think had I not been reading academic, I probably would have been more relaxed, and my reading rate would probably been much higher since I do a lot of reading for pleasure. So I know that would have been much higher. I'd like to talk about teaching reading strategies for middle school because that's currently what I'm working on right now. I haven't really gotten into that phase of the adult teaching yet, so I'm going to stick to what I know. Um, in middle school, what we try to do is it's essential to pre-teach the vocabulary. And because they don't really have command of the language yet, sometimes it's hard to describe what a word means. Instead, we show them what a word means. We look it up on the computer and we bring up pictures of whatever vocabulary word we're targeting that day. And this helps create a visual schema for them. They might not, perhaps they recognize this from their native land. They recognize the object and they could put a word to it. But what we try to do, my teacher and I, we try to give them a visual understanding of how the word works. When they see it in print, they can automatically go back and see that picture and it would make sense to them. That's how we do as far as creating a schema. It's very important when we read in our class in middle school, we read the text at least three times. The first time the teacher reads it or I read it out loud and they follow along. The second time we have an echo reading where they follow bits by bits behind the teacher. And then the third time they read it in pairs. And what this does, all these readings, every time they read it, they dig deeper and deeper into the text. So more of the text is unveiled to them, if you were, through all the various readings. Um, Another thing we try to do is we try to lay the foundation of what we're going to read. We ask our kids to read a lot in school. We really ask them to read a lot, and they get bored. So it's important that they know why they're reading and what to look for. And I think this hones them into focusing on exactly what they're looking for. If they're just reading to comprehend, then I mean, I get bored with that. I want to know what I'm reading it for. So I think to lay down the foundation to what are we looking for here? Are we looking into characters? Are we looking to see character descriptions? Are we looking at sequencing? Are we going to find out what happens first? What happens then? What happens next? What happens last? So giving them an idea of what they're looking for is, I think, a better strategy, and it encourages them to read. Now they have they have a roadmap sort of to get through the text. Um, Lobach says in one of the readings that develop base knowledge about a specific topic. This is essential. This is absolutely essential. You say to the students, today we are going to read this. My personal experience with this is, so you start to model the experience, and they sort of get into what you're looking for as a teacher. The other thing is, when you're reading for the first time, it's to think aloud to the students. Oh, I don't know this word. I better circle this word. I don't know what they mean here. Let me underline this for later. And what that thinking aloud does is introducing them to the thought process. And perhaps they might not know how to negotiate a text. So thinking it loud and allowing them and showing them your thought process will be modeling the thought process for them, and perhaps this would make it easier for them to attack any text. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for listening.